New videos every day.
Marx, Stalin, Chisholm, Rees, Jung. What do psychiatry and politics have in common? Quite a bit, in fact. The foundations of mental stability and the stability of a nation really go hand in hand, don't you think? Well, today we're going to look at the communist agenda for the takeover of America as it was presented to Congress in the 1960s, compared with some of the foundations that the World Federation of Mental Health was based upon, and we're going to compare and contrast a few of these, and hopefully you'll see the similarities. So let's begin with a little bit of background. The World Federation for Mental Health was formally established at the Third International Congress on Mental Hygiene in 1948. Its newly elected chairman, Dr. John Rawlings Rees, and Vice President of the Congress, Carl Jung, presided over nearly 4,000 participants that included psychologists, psychiatrists, and former mental health patients. Now, keep in mind that this is the same era in which the United Nations and also the World Health Organization were established. A quick tidbit about the World Federation of Mental Health is that it is classified as an international non-governmental organization, or an NGO. Now, the thing about NGOs is that they are free from all and any obligations to governmental, intergovernmental, and/or corporate entities, and that their positions and defensive decisions in response to any political decision can be implemented beyond the reaches of a national government. So basically what that means is that an NGO's personal determination of what may or may not be moral, just, fair, right, etc., can be implemented and used at any point in time beyond the reaches of the government. Now, interestingly enough, this federation was the only NGO to give counsel to the United Nations for years on various different aspects. So here we have a global governing body being advised by a team of psychiatric professionals. The founding members of the WFMH included Dr. John Rawlings Rees and Dr. George Brock Chisholm. Now, Dr. Rees was the first president of the WFMH and a military psychiatrist out of Great Britain. He also had ties to the foundation of the Tavistock Institute on Human Relations out of Britain, which studied largely mind control and also the implementation of socio-psychological works into different facets of society, particularly politics. Dr. Chisholm, on the other hand, had a particular specialty in the psychological training of soldiers during the Second World War. Now, he was the first ever to hold the position of Director General of Medical Services, the first to head the medical ranks of any army in the entire world. These were two very intelligent and potentially dangerous military strategic psychiatrists to have created the foundations of what the global mental health community now rests upon. In fact, right now you can go to the World Federation on Mental Health's website, and it clearly states that their original principles and foundations are still used in the work that they do today. Now, on the side of the communist agenda, well, anyone with half a mind can see the socialist principles being put into place by our modern-day governing bodies. However, we'll save that discussion for a future video. But on January 10th of 1963, Congress opened a record of 45 points of fact for the communist takeover of America, as an excerpt from the book The Naked Communist by Cleon Skousen. Now, the interesting thing is that these goals are strikingly similar not only to what's going on in our government today, but also to the founding principles of the global mental health community. So what I'd like to do is read for you some of these goals from the founding fathers of modern psychiatry, and also from the excerpt from The Naked Communist, and let you form your own opinions on their comparisons. So let's start off with communist goal number 11, which states, promote the UN as the only hope for mankind. If its charter is rewritten, demand that it be set up as a one-world government with its own independent armed forces. Now, the reason I bring this up is because of the strong ties between the World Federation on Mental Health and the UN, at least originally, on an advisory status. Because among other victories, the World Federation on Mental Health helped the United Nations to set up the NGO for the Mental Health Council, which is in place today, and also works on creating platforms for the Economic and Social Council of the UN. So we have politics, society, economy, and psychiatry all together under the United Nations. Okay, let's move to the next goal, which is communist goal number 17. Get control of the schools. Use them as a transmission belt for socialism and current communist propaganda. Soften the curriculum. Get control of the teachers' associations. Put the party line in textbooks. Now, psychiatry, on the other end of this, also has a very interesting viewpoint when it comes to education and control. Psychiatrist Dr. Chester Pierce addressed the Childhood International Education Seminar in 1973, saying this: "Every child in America entering school at the age of 5 is insane because he comes to school with certain allegiances to our founding fathers, toward our elected officials, toward his parents, toward a belief in a supernatural being, and toward the sovereignty of this nation as a separate entity. It's up to you as teachers to make all these sick children well by creating the international child of the future." And even further from that, we have Dr. John Rees Rawlings, who said this about the reaches of psychiatry: "We can therefore justifiably stress our particular point of view with regard to the proper development of the human psyche, even though our knowledge be incomplete. We must aim to make it permeate every educational activity in our national life. We have made a useful attack upon a number of professions. The two easiest of them, naturally, are the teaching profession and the church. The two most difficult are law and medicine." And that particular point correlates not only to the latter communist goal, but the next two that I want to cover, which are numbers 27 and 28. Which talk about religion. And they basically say infiltrating the churches and replacing revealed religion with social religion. Discredit the Bible and emphasize the need for intellectual maturity, which does not need a religious crutch. It further goes on to say that eliminating prayer and any form of religious expression from the school system is absolutely necessary. Now, modern psychiatry sees any kind of religious experience as a sign of psychosis, which is completely interesting because at a not-so-far-gone conference of the World Federation on Mental Health, religion was referred to as detrimental to the growing personality of a child. Since when did faith become a state of psychosis? Since when did praying or hoping or, having a foundation in something become a mental disturbance? And this is a really, really interesting correlation, and I encourage you to think more and look more into this. So, when did faith become a psychotic state? Well, in a communist nation, and apparently a completely sane one, religion is unnecessary. It would be so much more pertinent to gain control and to have control in the nation, to have people worship the tangible gods of power instead of those of ones unseen. Moving on, we have Carl R. Rogers, who was the former president of the American Psychological Association, or the APA, and also a Nobel Peace Prize winner for his work, who said that we can choose to use our growing knowledge to enslave people in ways never dreamed of before, depersonalizing them, controlling them by means so carefully selected that they will perhaps never be aware of their loss of personhood. Complete control, huh? Well, here comes in Communist Agenda Goals number 38 and 39, which I think for this particular topic are the most important. And these two goals state: transfer some of the powers of arrest from the police to social agencies. Involuntary commitment sound familiar? treat all behavioral problems as psychiatric disorders, which no one but psychiatrists can understand or treat. Dominate the psychiatric profession and use mental health laws as a means to gain coercive control over those who oppose communist goals. The most feared and revered positions to be held in this world are by those in power who can define what it means to be sane and operate a normal day-to-day life. And that's the government and our mental health professionals. Now, while I'm not going to continue to go over the communist goals and some of the foundations of global mental health, it's important to note that these goals go more in depth about controlling different facets of society, disillusioning the idea of a family, as that's very important, for gaining control. And also that creating the idea in America that violence is normal, which, by the way, you can go onto the APA's website right now, and it states very clearly that recent research shows that extremely violent people are not mentally ill, which there's another example of, showing communist goals correlating to the psychiatric profession. Basically, if you dig a little bit, what you'll find is the goals of the communists for taking over America back in the 60s, and also the goals of these global mental health founders are strikingly similar. And I implore you to do as such. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave you with this last quote, and it's by psychiatrist Nathan Klein, who was one of the forerunners in the field of computerized medical technology and also pharmacology. And I hope that you can make your own opinions. At the end of this, please leave me any comments that you have, rate the video, and don't forget to subscribe for more up-to-date information. Those of us who work in this field see a developing potential for nearly a total control of human emotional status, mental functioning, and will to act. These human phenomena can be started, stopped, or eliminated by the use of various types of chemical substances. What we can produce with our science now will affect the entire society. A utopia could be found, providing a sense of stability and certainty, whether realistic or not.